Hello, welcome to First Attack. Let's learn some fighting games. Hello everybody, my name is James Chen, aka J Chenzor, and during the course of these First Attack videos, I am going to be presenting to you what I like to call J Chenzor's axioms. These are important core concepts that you should definitely take to heart in order to strengthen yourself as a fighting game player. So let's go ahead and get started with the very first axiom. So when you sit down at a fighting game, there's obviously two sides to controlling your character in every fighting game. There's going to be all the movement options that you have with the D-pad and the joystick, and of course there's going to be the other side, which is all your attack buttons that let you try to hit your opponent. Here's axiom number 1. Movement is always going to be more important in fighting games than the buttons. Now this is going to sound a little counterintuitive here because what video games teach us is how to press buttons. If you're playing a platform game like a Mario game, you're hitting the jump button all the time. If you're playing a first-person shooter, you're trying to shoot at your opponent constantly. If you're playing a game like God of War, you're just hitting the attack button and swinging your weapons away all the time. This isn't gonna work in fighting games. Again, knowing how to move your character is the most important skill to learn in order to become a strong player. Now, obviously, with different games, there's different movement options, but even in a game such as Street Fighter 6, where walking and dashing are your only core fundamental movement options, it's still super important to learn how to move your character around the playfield than anything else. The reason why movement is so important in fighting games is because you'll learn over time that controlling your spacing, your distance from the opponent, will be the core basis of like 90% of your strategy while playing fighting games at a higher level. So for example, let's say you're trying to maintain this distance from your opponent. If they move backwards, you're going to want to move forward. If they move forward, you're going to want to move backwards. Reacting to your opponent's movement is so important. It's like a dance almost. You want to react to how your opponent moves and control your movement in response to how they move. This is the basis of what we like to call the neutral game, a term you're going to hear a lot as you're learning fighting games. But we will talk about this concept in far more depth when we get to a future episode all about the neutral game. So you now understand that movement is more important than pressing buttons. So when do you actually use the other half that I talked about? You know, pressing the buttons to attack your opponent. The hardest part is that, as I mentioned earlier, video games often teach us that hitting buttons is what you want to do. So it's very easy to go into a fighting game and the first thing you do is just start hitting buttons and panicking whenever your opponent gets close to you. You're basically doing the virtual version of flailing at an opponent when they come and attack you in an actual real fight. So the first thing that you're going to have to learn is how to break that habit of wanting to mash buttons in a panic. One of the things that's going to make you a stronger fighting game player is that you're going to understand that every time you press a button, there should be a purpose behind it. And so, I present to you J Chenzor's axiom number 2. If I ask you why you pressed a button and you can't tell me, you shouldn't have pressed that button. And no, saying, I just hoped he would get hit by it is not a valid answer. Hoping is not the right way to play fighting games. So learning to be very purposeful with your button presses is an important concept and something I like to call the economy of buttons. The way I look at it is this. Let's say every time you press an attack button on your controller, it costs you $1. Now, obviously, you want to spend as little money as possible. So that means every time you press the button, you're going to want to make sure there's a reason for it, that there's a purpose, so you can save as much money as possible. That's how you want to look at it. Every time you press a button, there should be a reason behind it. Now, obviously, as you are at a beginner level, all the different reasons why you would press a button are not going to be known to you. I mean, seriously, one single move can have like 5 different reasons why you would press that button during the course of the fight. We'll learn what all those are during the course of this series. So there you go. 2 very important axioms to learn right from the get-go. Of course, as I mentioned, axiom number 1, make sure you understand that movement is key. It's the most important thing to get comfortable with first and foremost. And secondly, learn not to just mash buttons and panic. You're going to want to understand that every time you press a button, there should be a specific purpose and a specific goal behind it. But as I mentioned, we'll learn those during the course of all these videos. So hopefully this has been a very educational first video, as we also say hello to my co-host Jasmine. Mwah. Hello, Jasmine. But hopefully that this has been a helpful video for you so far. We're just getting started learning fighting games here, so check the description below. Make sure you bookmark the link to the playlist for this entire series. If you haven't watched the intro video yet, I definitely suggest checking that out for a little bit. But other than that, keep an eye on the playlist for all future episodes that I will keep producing. And hopefully these will be helping you on your way to becoming a strong fighting game player. Please like and subscribe. Leave a comment below for the algorithm, for the YouTube algorithm. And we will see you on the next episode of First Attack.